So can I begin, or are you giving an introduction, or?
No, you can proceed because it's been.
Okay, okay, thank you. Yes. श्रीवत्सवंशकलशोदधिकौस्तुभस्य श्रीवासराघवगुरोस्तनयं ततश्च विद्या अवापितं दधानं हृदि गुरुं करुणाकराख्यं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये श्रीमान् वेङ्कटनाथार्यः कवितार्किककेसरी वेदान्ताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि. Namaste to one and all. A very quick recap of what we covered last time. So we were looking about the fourth Alvar, and we saw that for pure bhaktas like the Alvar, Bhagavan is yathoktakari, meaning as he is told by the Alvar to get up and leave the city, Bhagavan also does that. He listens to bhaktas. So as he is told, he does. That therefore in Tamil we call him Sonnavannam Seida Perumal. We also saw that bhakti as a path is available to everyone. It is not limited to just some very great scholars or some people who are very great qualified in terms of being rishis who have done great tapasya or anything. Bhakti is simple and can be done by anybody. However, bhakti does not mean that we can do as we please and expect results. So we saw an example, 2 examples we saw in the previous class, where it was discussed about certain things that people do blindly and expect results from Bhagavan. Bhagavan definitely listens to us. He definitely likes to do the way bhaktas tell. But when does he do that? He does it when the bhaktas are pure bhaktas. What do you mean by pure bhakta? If you have a pure devotion, you would want to do what he wants you to do. You would want to abstain from what he doesn't want you to do. So if you have pure devotion in Bhagavan, it doesn't mean that like Ravana, you will have faith in Shiva and then go ahead and kidnap Sita. That is inappropriate. We should understand. If there is anybody else who is unmuted, kindly mute yourself. So bhakti has to be shown in a proper manner. If we have devotion, we should behave in a way that pleases Bhagavan. How do we know what pleases Bhagavan? We know it through scriptures. Is there any other way? Yes, there are some other ways. In Manusmriti, there is a beautiful shloka. Vedo khilo dharma moolam, smritishilecha tadvidam, acharashchaiva sadhunam, atmanas tushtirevacha. If you are learned in the Vedas, the entirety of the Vedas are going to teach dharma. They are going to be the source of dharmic knowledge for you. Or if you have the words of great sages, that also counts. Great sages, great saints. If that is also not available with you, acharashchaiva sadhunam, look at the way sadhus behave and follow that. But if you don't have sadhus around you, or if you don't even know how to identify a sadhu, then what? Then atmanas tushtirevacha, at least use your conscience to see what is right and what is wrong. Conscience is placed at the lowest level here because our conscience always works on the basis of available knowledge. I would consciously not want to hurt anyone. I might think, let us say I'm driving a car. I might think that in order to avoid an accident, I have to very quickly turn right. But maybe by turning right very quickly, I end up hitting another vehicle. I did not know. So there are places where our conscience gives us the best situation, but best solution. But that best solution is limited by the amount of knowledge we have. So being consciously morally good is not enough. We need to go further and see how the sadhus are doing their acharanas. We have to go further and try to learn what the sages and great saints have taught, and we have to receive proper Vedic knowledge. What the Vedas really want to say. It is not necessary for us to learn the Vedas themselves to get Vedic knowledge. The same knowledge that is given by the Veda is also presented to us in Itihasas and Puranas and other simplified works that are simplified solely for the sake of us. So it is not very difficult. We can very well do it. If we follow it, we can expect the results. That should be kept in mind. Now, we spoke about the Divya Desha, Tiruvekka. We saw about how the Alvar behaved there. And today, I am showing two photos of the Utsava Murti at Tiruvekka. Look at how brightly Bhagavan is there. If we look at the concept of Utsava Murti, what is this Utsava Murti? What is Utsava Murti? What is Mula Murti? We need to understand that, correct? We need to understand what is Utsava Murti and what is Mula Murti. There are two types. If you visit temples, especially those that are constructed as per proper Agama Shastras, you would see that there is one main Vigraha that is installed in the temple, which is immovable. Immovable as in it is very large and it is never moved. It always stays stationary. That would be there in the sanctum, in the inner sanctum of the temple, we would be able to find it. Outside, or perhaps a little closer to us than the Mula Murti, but maybe in the same Sannidhi. Usually in the same Sannidhi we see in many, many temples. You would see the Utsava Murti. Why is it called Utsava Murti? It is called Utsava Murti because it is not stationary. It is not just there. When there is an Utsava, when there is a festival, that Murti is taken out in procession. You might see it just outside the temple. You might see people carrying the Vigraha, and Bhagavan comes outside and gives blessings to people. So there are different kinds. Like for example, if we go to Tirupati, we would see Bhagavan during Brahmotsava. Every day on a different Vahana, we would get darshan of Bhagavan. Sometimes there is a tour that is taken by Bhagavan to go around and see how people are, and he comes back. In this manner, there are different types of Utsavas that happen. So, Utsava Murti is where Bhagavan moves outside. Now, this Utsava Murti, in those days, we might have heard, you all might have heard, that in those days there were certain sections of people who were not allowed to enter temples. This, of course, was questioned by Bhagavad Ramanuja, his Purvacharyas, and his successors. All of them questioned it. But the concept of Utsava Murti itself is not necessarily restricted to Vaishnavism. We see it in some Shiva temples, Kartikeya temples, and so on as well. So the concept of Utsava Murti is a slightly bigger one. Now, I have written a point saying it is not just a social concept. What does that mean? First, we have to understand how it is a social concept. Social concept here implies that the Vigraha, when it is taken out for procession, then all types of people get to see the Vigraha. It is a time when everybody gets to see. If you go to Tirupati, it might take you a very long time to get darshan of Bhagavan. It might take a very long time to get darshan of Bhagavan, and in a few seconds they will ask you to move away. But if you are attending an Utsava, of course it is very crowded and difficult to get close enough to have a proper view of Bhagavan. But the Utsava Murti would travel slowly and you would be able to continuously have darshan of him, although you would still have to be moving to ensure that the Utsava Murti is also moving. So, there is a social concept here. What is the social concept? As people might have guessed, it tends to unite people from all walks of life, that is, all ashramas, and people from all classes, that is, all varnas. They get to together enjoy the darshan of Bhagavan and get his blessings. So there is no discrimination that happens there in terms of having darshan of Bhagavan when he himself comes out of the temple. Bhagavad Ramanuja used this concept to spread compassion in society. How did he spread compassion in society? Now there are people who cannot have darshan of Bhagavan inside. So he went through all the Agama Shastras and he saw how do we help them. Yes, taking the Utsava Murti out is a way. Then there are statements in the Vedas itself that seem to, not just seem to, that actually say that only qualified people are allowed to study the Vedas. There is a qualification for learning the Vedas also. It is mentioned in the Vedas. It is mentioned in the Vedas that people of certain births are not allowed to study the Vedas. And this is agreed upon by Adi Shankaracharya in his Brahma Sutra Bhashya, even Bhagavad Ramanuja in his Shri Bhashya. But there is a workaround. What is the workaround? How can I listen to the way? If you say listening to Veda itself is wrong, then where will I go? How will I get? You can get knowledge from Ramayana, Mahabharata, and so on. But what about the Veda? During the procession of the Utsava Murti, Veda is recited. People, Dvijas, who have studied the Vedas, they walk behind the Utsava Murti and recite the Vedas. Why behind? Why not in front? At the front of Bhagavan, in front of Bhagavan, people recite the Divya Prabandha that has been composed by the Alvars. So Divya Prabandha, which is a Tamil poetic essence of the Vedas, and Vedas themselves coming behind with Bhagavan in between. In Sri Vaishnava temples, that is how we see the Utsavas happening. So there is a Veda Goshti. Bhagavan is followed by the Veda Goshti, and Bhagavan himself follows the Divya Prabandha Goshti. What is so great about the Divya Prabandha? That Bhagavan himself follows it. It is after all telling the same thing as the Veda. If it is telling the same thing as the Veda, yes, that is there. But Veda is eternal. It was handed down to us by Bhagavan. The Divya Prabandham, on the other hand, has come to us from the Alvars. The Alvars were the greatest of the devotees, they had infinite devotion to honor Alvars, to honor the Divya Prabandham. Such a kind of a setup has been established by the will of Bhagavan himself. That is yet another example of how compassionate Bhagavan is. So, people who would say that they do not want to recite the Vedas in front of others would still have to recite it in the UTSAVA. People who refuse to teach others out of ego, if they say, I will teach only one community, I will teach only another community. Remember that Bhagavad Ramanuja was predominantly in Tamil Nadu. So, for several years, and in those days, a lot of people in South India knew Tamil, even outside of Tamil Nadu. So, by reciting the Divya Prabandha, which is in Tamil, that could be understood by the locals who do not know, even those who do not know Sanskrit, the Vedic teachings are also imparted. That is a great thing. Let us move on to what is bhakti, because we spoke a little about bhakti last time. We said that bhakti is actually superior because it can be performed by anybody. But how do we really judge it? In the aspect of being performable by people, bhakti is superior. But are there places where bhakti is insufficient? Is it possible that bhakti is really insufficient? If we look at Advaita Vedanta, Nirvishesha Advaita, that is the Kevala Advaita of Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada says that bhakti is indeed necessary. He has also written lots of stotras that overflow with bhakti. But he says that bhakti that is shown, if it is towards a Saguna Brahman with the feeling of being different from that Saguna Brahman, that is not going to lead to the greatest state of existence, which is, according to Advaita, the original state of existence, which is Nirgunatva. The state of being attributeless is the supreme state. There is no space, there is no time, there is only Brahman. That Brahman is the Atma. Is there anything other than the Atma? Nothing is there other than the Atma. That is called Paramartha in Advaita. In Vishishtadvaitha, there are differences. Vishishtadvaita says, no, there are infinite Atman that are similar to each other, infinite Jivatman that are similar to each other. What is addressed as Jiva in Advaita is Jivatma in Vishishtadvaita. And the supreme state of the Atma that is being described, which is described as attainable, which is called as the supreme moksha, that state is still considered to be with attributes and not without attributes. Why are we going to do this now? We were supposed to discuss bhakti, but we have gone into moksha. No, there is a reason why we are doing it. Because we said that bhakti is superior because anybody can practice it. But we asked the question, does it mean that the results, even the greatest of the greatest results, are they also attainable through bhakti? To answer that, we should know what the greatest of the greatest result is. That greatest of the greatest result is called moksha. The scriptures use many words to describe it. A state of mukti, a state of moksha, and so on. This particular state, as per Vishishtadvaitha, is where the jivas are still different from Paramatma, yet they possess complete knowledge, complete ability. They become one with him in the sense that in terms of abilities they are the same, in terms of knowledge they are the same, in terms of actions they are consistent. Consistent in the sense they behave, they think the way Bhagavan thinks. So if they want to move somewhere, it means Bhagavan wants them to move somewhere. But yes, even in that state, the Jivatma remains Anu and not Vibhu. Some of these words that I'm using here and there, like I use the word Nirvishesha, I use the word Nirguna, I use the word Anu and Vibhu. These words we will see later. But for now, we have understood that the supreme state is moksha. Okay, the supreme state is moksha. Now, what is bhakti? Snehapurvam anudhyanam bhaktirityabhidiyate. This is the statement of the Puranas. Bhagavad Ramanuja cites Linga Purana in his Gita Bhashya to explain what is bhakti. Okay, Snehapurvam anudhyanam bhaktirityabhidiyate. It is not like you are following out of fear, but you follow Bhagavan out of not fear, not out of the feeling that he, even if void of fear, it should not be just out of the feeling, oh, he is superior, therefore we follow him. See, there are two kinds of people. Some people obey rules because they are afraid of being punished. Some people obey rules because they think rules have been imposed by superiors. The government is superior to me. The constitution is superior to me. The king is superior to me. My boss is superior to me. Therefore, I follow him. I'm not necessarily afraid of him, but he is my superior. If he says it is my duty to obey. In this manner, some people follow. But if you have bhakti, yes, indeed, Bhagavan is superior. But if you have bhakti, there would be sneha. There would be love for Bhagavan. If you are doing actions with love for Bhagavan, that would imply bhakti. How do you do it? How do you show bhakti? That is very easy to answer. You could show bhakti in your thoughts. Think about Bhagavan. Think about his pastimes. There are so many things that can be done. You could show it in your words. Some people sing bhajans. Some people speak about Bhagavan. Stories of Bhagavan they speak. Some people recite the names of Bhagavan. Then you could also show it in action. For example, the archana that is done in temples. You offer flowers. You offer something. Even at home, offer a fragrant flower. Offer milk. Offer even just water. Offer some tulasi. All of that constitutes the display of bhakti. What are the benefits of bhakti then? I know what is bhakti. I know how to show bhakti. I am a bhakta now. But what will I get by being a bhakta? Somebody comes and asks me, why are you a bhakta? What are you going to gain by being a bhakta? I should be able to answer. What are the benefits of bhakti? Bhakti removes, firstly, here of course we are talking about bhakti towards Bhagavan. If we show bhakti towards some other being, if I show bhakti towards my office boss, then the biggest benefit that I might get would only be a promotion. But with Bhagavan, bhakti is different. Bhakti, when shown to Bhagavan, removes sins. It washes away past sins. How can it wash away past sins? You're saying that if I can do whatever sin I want and just show devotion to Bhagavan and it will disappear? No, not like that. In fact, there is a very great, very beautiful shloka of Vedanta Deshika. Swami Vedanta Deshika says, Gunajala prakarshepi dhivaratvepi janmatah sarvatirthavagahepi nichavrittir nashasyate. Even if you have all sorts of skills, even if you are born intelligent, even if you have visited every single punya tirtha, if in your mind you are corrupt, you are evil, then you will not prosper in terms of going closer towards moksha or towards Bhagavan. So, of course, it is to be understood that when we say devotion is burning away sins, when we say devotion is burning away sins, devotion burns away sins through multiple ways. One is that if you get devoted to Bhagavan, you would not want to do bad things. If you think about the bad things you have done in the past, you might regret and become a good person. Or maybe you are already regretting and praying to Bhagavan. That would act as prayaschitta. So there are many ways by which bhakti can help to wash away sins. Then there are specific statements in scriptures. Do this, do that. This will wash away your sins. That would wash away your sins. With devotion, if you do, that will wash away your sins. Then, what else? It gives punya. It gives happiness. Okay, let us say it removes sadness and gives happiness. But happiness and sadness are what? They are all temporary. After I die, I will be reborn. Does bhakti give me moksha? Bhakti takes the person closer and closer to moksha. The person who shows bhakti to Bhagavan slowly goes closer and closer to Bhagavan. And the effects of bhakti, the benefit of bhakti that is essentially going closer to Bhagavan, it is a permanent one. What do we mean by a permanent one? We mean that even after showing bhakti to Bhagavan for a long period of time, if somebody forgets Bhagavan, goes behind something else, eventually that person would automatically be made to return to the state where he left the bhakti. Maybe in this life, maybe in a later life, but it will definitely happen. That is a promise given by Bhagavan. Krishna gives a promise. And this is the promise. That the benefit of bhakti, the greatest benefit of bhakti, which is that you move closer towards Bhagavan, that benefit is a permanent one. In the long run, we would realize that it is a permanent one. Okay, that is also understood. But is it always easy to show bhakti? What are the challenges that people face when performing bhakti? Firstly, you should know what bhakti is. As in, you should know to have sneha. Let us say I have sneha, but not towards Bhagavan, but towards somebody else. If a man shows sneha to his wife and keeps contemplating on her when she is away, when he is away for work, he keeps contemplating on her. That counts as bhakti, but that is not the bhakti that we are talking about. And she might not be able to reciprocate to this bhakti the way Bhagavan can. Of course, she wouldn't, as a matter of fact. So, a person who contemplates on lesser beings or on perishable beings and attributes is bound to get perishable results. Antavattu phalam tesham. They will always have an end. So if a man thinks his wife is very beautiful and keeps contemplating with great love. But eventually the beauty itself would disappear. She would grow old, get wrinkles, the beauty would disappear. After some amount of time, she herself would disappear. She would also die. What is permanent? Nothing is permanent. What does he really gain? He might gain some level of happiness when he is contemplating on her. But that is not going to last forever. That is not going to give him great benefits. If he contemplates on something non-living, the non-living cannot give any phala. The wife can at least reciprocate by showering love and affection. A non-living item cannot do even that. So, there are these kinds of problems. There is perishability, lack of permanentness, lack of ability to reciprocate to the bhakti, and so on. These problems are all absent when we show bhakti to Bhagavan. So when we show bhakti to Bhagavan, Bhagavan is Shubha, correct? Shubha. When you contemplate on something, if you are contemplating on something very ugly, you would feel disgusted. You would not even feel like contemplating. So what is contemplated on needs to be attractive. The meaning of the word Krishna, they say one of the meanings is all attractive. All attractive, meaning attractive in all aspects. Why does Bhagavan present himself in an attractive way to us? He is attractive by nature, yes, but he attracts us so that we go towards him. That is a display of compassion. Why did he take a very handsome form and not a very ugly, scary form? That is because he wanted to attract us. He wanted to show compassion to us. So, Bhagavan has the quality of being attractive. He also has the quality of reciprocating to our devotion in the best possible way. There is no possible way above what Bhagavan is going to use. So, we tend to contemplate on attractive things. Bhagavan is attractive. The best thing, the smart people would want to contemplate on those things that would give them the maximum benefit, and Bhagavan gives the maximum benefit. Therefore, we have to contemplate on Bhagavan. Yet, when people try to contemplate on Bhagavan, there are certain problems that come. Sometimes they forget. Sometimes they forget to show love and affection. Sometimes they are blinded by what is happening in their lives. I prayed to you every day. No, there was back in school days. This is a story that really happened in my life. So in school days, there was a girl who went to a Ganesha temple every day, praying for getting great marks in her board exams, 10th board exams. She prayed every day. She wrote the exams. Her marks were not great. And she started saying, there is no point in praying to Ganesha. He never listens to people. He never listens to people. I prayed to him every day asking for marks, but he never gave me the marks. Of course, if you want to show bhakti, if you really have devotion, you would behave the way he wants you to behave. How would Ganesha want you to behave? He would want you to study properly and give the exams, and then the teachers he would ensure that there is a fair correction and you get good marks. That he can do. Why would he go the wrong way and give you marks just because you pray to him even though you haven't studied? Marks are a display of our capability. Although our education system has its own flaws, marks are a display. They are used as a way to assess the academic performance of a student, the academic qualification of a student. So the qualification should not be fake, right? But there are a lot of people. Now, this is a simple example, studying for an exam. But there are people who face difficulties in life. They pray to Bhagavan. They say, please solve my problems. He does not solve the problem, then they blame Bhagavan. So people need to understand that it is not Bhagavan who is intentionally not reciprocating. He will reciprocate even at the slightest possible situation. You leave the smallest gap and he will still help you. But there are situations where he will not help. Why? Because Bhagavan is not just compassionate, he is fair. He is 100% fair. What do we say? We say Ramo Vigrahavan Dharmaha. Yes, Rama is extremely compassionate. He showed compassion even to Ravana. But Ramo Vigrahavan Dharmaha. Eventually, if you keep standing on the side of Adharma, why will Bhagavan support you? Then why do people suffer? I was a very good boy, but I still suffered. No, maybe you were a good boy in this life, but before, in the past, in some other life, you might have been a bad boy. You might have done something wrong. For that, you are suffering now. It is prarabdha karma. And these kinds of things will have to be understood. Even if these are not understood, is there a way to perform bhakti well, even if I don't understand all of these concepts of karma and all of this logical reasoning? It sounds very complicated. Can't we simplify it? Yes, we can simplify. Bhagavan is always right. Bhakti should always be shown to Bhagavan. Very simple. You should always show bhakti to Bhagavan, and Bhagavan is always right, and Bhagavan will grant the greatest for you. Remember these things and show bhakti to Bhagavan. No matter what happens in life, if you believe that Bhagavan is fine, if you believe that Bhagavan is correct, then no problem will come. If there is indeed any kind of suffering, we ourselves are the reason for it. Why? It is our karma phala. But even if we don't understand the concept of karma, let us not try to find out the culprit. If there is a suffering, there is suffering, but Bhagavan is the greatest, I will still show bhakti to him. No matter what happens, I will show bhakti to Bhagavan. That is the way in which people should be. If they behave in that way, they could come out of this challenge. Then there are some people, they don't start hating Bhagavan at any point, but they suddenly get more attracted to something else and move away. Like how the rishis who perform tapasya, one fine day they see a beautiful apsara and they forget the tapasya, they forget Bhagavan, they start living with the woman. In that way, many people, even in the stories of Alvars, we are going to see. People might end up forgetting bhakti, not because they have started hating Bhagavan, but because they have suddenly become more attracted to somebody else or something else. If that is the case, that is also a challenge. That is also a challenge. So we need to understand that while it is very easy to show bhakti, it is also very easy to stop showing bhakti. I show bhakti to Bhagavan when I think about Bhagavan. When I go outside, if I go to the shop to buy some mangoes, would I be thinking about mangoes or would I be thinking about Bhagavan? The greatest of the saints, like the Alvars, they would still be thinking about Bhagavan, even when buying mangoes. I might think about Bhagavan after bringing the mangoes. I might think I should offer these to Bhagavan. But at all points of time, continuously, is it possible to keep thinking about Bhagavan and keep showing bhakti? That is not possible. Is that necessary? Should you continuously show bhakti in order for it to be called bhakti? No. Then what is it called if you continuously show bhakti? It is called bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga, which is explained in Bhagavad Gita, is where you show bhakti non-stop. Taila dharadivat, they say. Or imagine there is a pot and there is an oil or some even water, let us say, which is constantly dripping. It keeps dripping drop by drop. Continuously it keeps dripping without stopping. In that way, if we show bhakti, it is bhakti yoga. Okay, is that all there is to bhakti yoga? Or is there any other difference that it has from bhakti? Yes, it has differences. Bhakti yoga is something that is much more difficult to do, obviously, because you need to be continuously doing it. At the same time, it should be done in such a way that it doesn't hamper our duties. Maybe I'm meditating. When I'm meditating, I forget to look outside and do my duties. But once I stop meditating, if the meditation stops, then I have to immediately start attending my duties. That is natural. Another difference is in how we perform bhakti yoga. Obviously, if bhakti yoga is different from bhakti, performing of bhakti yoga would also be different from performing of bhakti. One difference we saw in how to perform, that bhakti has to be performed continuously, non-stop. Such a state is extremely difficult. Very, very great saints in the past have done it. But today it is very, very impractical. Continuous, perfect bhakti. Remember, we are discussing bhakti yoga as defined and as explained by Vishishtadvaitha Acharyas. So, how do you perform it? It has two aspects inside as its parts. One is karma, one is jnana. Karma yoga and jnana yoga are parts of bhakti yoga. What is this karma yoga? Karma yoga is a path that helps you to attain Bhagavan. Do karma phala tyaga, that is, renounce the fruits of actions that you do. Do the work, but do not claim ownership of the result. If you behave in that way, it is called karma phala tyaga. Is that all? No. Whatever I do has to be an appropriate work. Okay. What is appropriate? That which is dharmic. Just because I don't expect the result, if I go ahead and murder some people, would that be fine? No, it would not be fine. So I have to perform duties. So anashritah karma phalam, karyam, the word karyam in that shloka, the first shloka of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, karyam means duty. Karyam karma karoti yaha, says Krishna. That person, sa sannyasi cha yogi cha, na niragnir na cha kriyaha. Who is niragni? A person who has entered sannyas ashrama. Who is an akriya? A person who is no longer doing the other kriyas because he is in a great state of meditation or something like that. But a person who does not expect the results of his karma who does karma phala tyaga, having realized that Bhagavan is the creator, sustainer, and destroyer, having surrendered everything to him, if he performs karma, which karma? Karma that is his duty as ordained and approved by scriptures, that person is a better sannyasi. That person is a better yogi than all the other sannyasis and yogis. What do we call such a person who performs these kinds of actions? A person who performs karma in this manner is a karma yogi. He does karma phala tyaga, and everything he does not claim ownership of the karma, and further, he follows one focused path as ordained by scriptures towards one focused type of karma he performs continuously as in regularly, in order to attain Bhagavan. The different types of karma yogis are also listed in the Gita. We have talked about karma yoga. Then there is jnana yoga. This is where you use your mind to contemplate, to think. So you have to spend some time meditating, thinking about Bhagavan, contemplating on his divinity, on his divine aspects, as opposed to performing physical actions in karma yoga. If you take these mental actions, it would be jnana yoga. Okay, jnana yoga is there, karma yoga is there. These two are parts of bhakti yoga, meaning a bhakti yogi has to perform both karma yoga and jnana yoga. If I perform karma yoga and jnana yoga together with great devotion, it would eventually get counted as bhakti yoga. What are the benefits? Bhakti yoga can lead to direct moksha. Perform bhakti yoga, you will get moksha. What are the challenges? Continuously showing bhakti, behaving perfectly, doing karma phala tyaga at all points of time. No matter what I do, I should not think I have done. I should not think I have done, no matter what I do. I shouldn't have ahankara, mamakara. I should keep contemplating on Bhagavan. All of that if I do, it would be bhakti yoga. But that is very, very extremely difficult to do. Who can do it? Extremely difficult. You try, it is easy to fail. What if you fail? You perform a prayashchitta. After the prayashchitta, you resume. Is there any guarantee that it will succeed this time? No. It could again fail because there might be prapti virodhi papa, some amount of sins that we have done that have entered our prarabdha karma and are preventing us from advancing. If these sins keep preventing us, what could we do? We could keep trying. That is the best. Try. If you fail, perform prayashchitta. In this manner, it goes on. Some people manage to get moksha quickly, a very few people, by performing bhakti yoga perfectly. Today we do not hear of such people. Then there are those people who, such people might be existing far away, but we do not hear of them. But many people, including Brahmadeva himself, at some point of time, they lose focus of Bhagavan. They get distracted. And therefore their bhakti yoga gets a bhanga. And then they have to do a prayashchitta. Brahma had to do Ashwamedha. He had to do 100 Ashwamedhas. Bhagavan said, perform it at the Punya Kshetra, perform it at Satyavrata Kshetra, and it would count as even a single Ashwamedha that is you perform, that single Ashwamedha would count as 100 ones. That is the compassion of Bhagavan, teaching how to do things easily. Brahma did again, but got into problems one by one. We will see all of that story when we talk about that particular Divya Desha. But each time he got a problem, he had to do a prayaschitta. He had to again surrender to Bhagavan. So technically, it could take even infinite time. It never takes infinite, it is always finite. But technically, it could take a very, very long time to attain moksha if we try the path of bhakti yoga, because achieving perfection is extremely difficult. The kind of surrender to Bhagavan that is done during practices like bhakti yoga is called anga prapatti. Anga means part. Prapatti means sharanagati, surrender. Anga prapatti means that surrender which is a part of something. The real intention is something else. Like the real intention is bhakti yoga. My bhakti yoga has failed, has been halted for some reason. I lost focus of Bhagavan and started thinking about other things. Therefore, I surrender to Bhagavan so that it acts as a prayaschitta. And when I do as ordained by scriptures, by surrendering in this manner, I get to resume bhakti yoga. So, in bhakti yoga, the kind of surrender that is done to Bhagavan is called anga prapatti. Does it have benefits? Yes, of course. The disqualification that is taken in by failing to do bhakti yoga properly. I keep contemplating on Bhagavan, suddenly I forget him. Then what? Shouldn't I start from the beginning? Yes, you should. But if you perform anga prapatti, you don't have to start from the beginning, because it acts as prayaschitta. Bhagavan, you pray to Bhagavan, you say, my bhakti yoga has been halted, it has been stopped. Please help me resume it properly. Then, based on your levels of karma, the best possible extent of doing bhakti yoga would be granted to you by Bhagavan. What are the challenges? Technically, infinite number of anga prapatti could be done, right? As I said, once we resume bhakti yoga, there is no guarantee that it would be perfect in the second time. So if we keep failing, we have to keep doing anga prapatti. That is a challenge. Is there a way out of this? What are we saying? We are saying karma yoga is very difficult. We are saying jnana yoga is even more difficult. We are saying bhakti yoga has karma yoga and jnana yoga as its parts. Then we are saying that the prayaschitta that is there in bhakti yoga also does not save you. It does not give you any guarantee. Then, is there any other way out? Yes, there is a way out. That way is called Angi Prapatti. It is the path of Paripurna Sharanagati, absolute surrender to Bhagavan. About that path, we will see in the next class, in the upcoming class. Why did we move on to these topics? We were discussing about Alvars. These seem closer to Vishishtadvaitha, though at least these are theoretical. Why did we have to look at the lives of Alvars? Smritishile cha tadvidam acharashchaiva sadhunam. That is why. As a concept, Vishishtadvaitha could be explained very quickly. What do you mean by that Advaita?